Hi, my name is Guy Michike. I am a creative and technical professional with experience in video, motion design, 3D animation, and building tools for artists. I've worked on commercials, advertising campaigns, and clients across many different sectors. I'm here to show you this issue I was having. I wanted to try to develop some tools to solve the problem. First, I'll show you some of the tools I've developed. This one here is called Logo Grids. And with this, I can easily create grids, grid patterns, adjusting the size and scales, and even generate some more. I can delete them, and even this golden ratio, I can go even further down. And so here I also change the colors and the strokes and the circular trajectories if I wanted to add them too. I can just apply, and you get those as well. So that was a tool for designers. I've also built some other tools for Maya here too. I've built this FSpy importer for Maya, which allows me to import FSpy projects. So I can import an FSpy project. And here we get the camera. I can adjust the scene scale too if I want to. And when I add a box or a cube, it stays in perspective. Yes, very good. And so that's a really good tool. In addition to that tool, I've also built a CAD importer too, which works very well. And this plugin here is called LightMe, which on any object, I can just hover over and hit the L key, and it'll snap a light to that area, and I can move it around, but only within the bounds of that object, which is pretty cool and handy to have if you want to snap lights to different points in different areas. You see if I position the light over here, you can see I get the aim point where it's aiming, and I can also get the target point, the gizmo here, and move it around. And that works for any model. Another great feature of the plugin is no matter where on the geometry, I can hit the L key and it'll snap a light at that exact point. If I have the gizmo select and I hold L, I can snap it to different parts of the geometry and move it only on that object. Now it'll only snap to that specific object. Hold L and I can snap it there, or I can just create another light anywhere on any model, such as that one. So it's a nice little feature that I built for one of the studios that I worked for, and the team really loved it. It was an easy way to just light your objects and your scenes, because you can just snap them to each object that you want. I can right click on any object and add a light to that object, right click on here and add a light to that object. Yeah, and some of the preferences here, you can add multiple renderers depending on what you have installed. They'll show up here, and just a couple other settings to play around with. Also in After Effects, I also developed some other tools, such as the FSpy importer, also working for After Effects. Here's an advanced items replacer menu, which allows me to just replace items in a composition. I also developed this AE Python console, which allows you to write Python in After Effects. I plan on making a demo for this very soon. Yeah, you can just add tabs, and you can execute extend script as if it were Python. The cool thing about this is I can save and open up different files and close tabs and open different Python files. Some of the ones that I developed are all here and included. So for example, I could open up this one and then just execute it. And here now I have a batch renaming. And you notice that the user interface is different. That's because these scripts are all Python using Qt and PySide 6, which is pretty amazing. I can clear the output, I can close and save files, and something that I also included is a script library. Here are some samples too, and I can either edit the script and it'll open up here in the console so you can see all the code. You can mess with the script, write your own, or I can just run it by double clicking it. And here's the layer overlay tool. And these are just different tools that I've developed for their own purpose. A unique one is the layer timeline visualizer, which just basically displays your layers. So let's just say I have different layers, and some of them are different colors and different lengths. Now they all show up in this layer timeline visualizer, which was made in Qt and Python. The expression library, which has expressions, and I can apply them to different properties, such as position. If I want to apply that, now it'll apply it here to position. I made this set-driven key rig, which is pretty cool. I will have to show this to you sometime. It allows you to do like a set-driven key like how you could do in Maya and set different drivers for different properties. Yeah, so I can create a driver and then maybe connect that to position. and then I can build the SDK rig, and what that'll do is that'll make a slider up here, where now this slider is going to control, you can see down here in the bottom, these values are changing. Whenever I adjust the slider, these values here are changing. And I can of course adjust the values here manually. It's the only way to get keyframes, or I can right click and add a keyframe here, and it'll add a keyframe down here. And I could update these and edit the connections, delete the connections, select the same properties, select the same layers, clear the selection. I can delete the selection. I can even go into an advanced, where here I can adjust the properties and how they affect each of the set-driven key functions. I can set different patterns for each of the selected layers. I can turn all the layers on if I wanted to, or turn them all off. I can select different properties and positions. I'll have to show how that works someday. And then I also have this Proximity Animator Pro, which basically applies a null and affects different properties based on the proximity of that null. And here's also some other UI experiments. I can have a little UI menu maybe looking like that, sort of like a Windows Fluent. Even have a different tab view. This would be a nice little interface to have inside After Effects. Here I'm adding more tabs based on the view. Here's a quick example of using my Proximity Animator. Again, this is all written in Python. The cool thing is, yeah, I can scan the different layers. It'll show me all the layers that have expressions enabled, as well as any setting up here. I can apply the different effects, and the visualizer, which shows me where my camera is, where my null is, and where all the elements that are affected are. And if I move this around, you see how the proximity effect affects the different layers. And if I refresh that view, you can see here the proximity of the effect. And so if I come into the controller, and let's just say I increase the max distance and I refresh, look, now the proximity, it shows you exactly where it is, and it'll show you what layers are going to be affected when I move it. And if I wanted to affect a different property such as opacity, come here, select opacity, and I can refresh the preview. And here I can select all the layers I want, and then hit apply proximity effect. And now it applied that opacity. And you see when I come here into manage, scan layers, now you see opacity is included. And when I move this, it affects the opacity as well as the position. And I can come into the controller and adjust just that influence. Okay, we can do maybe 200, and now we can move the proximity over there. What I can do is I can turn it off specifically. You can see here, watch this layer. If I turn opacity on and off and position, now I can turn them off and on if I don't want them there, or I can just remove the proximity expressions for any of these selected ones here. Just go to remove proximity expressions. Are you sure? Yes. And they'll disappear from those layers and won't be affected. Okay, now for the real problem at hand. I'll show you the problem, and I will show you some of the solutions I came up with. So here I've imported these two files. One of them is my original, and then the other one is a converted format. And you can see the file size between each of them, 874 versus 222. So obviously I want to use the converted one, saving some space. But notice what happens when I bring them here into After Effects. So here's the original, and the rocks, they're fine, just like that. And then notice the converted when I bring this into After Effects. Now I immediately know what's going on here. This has to do with the alpha channel. You know, you're importing here. You just want to make sure that they're the same, such as this one says pre-multiplied, and now this one says straight. But this problem has nothing to do actually with pre-multiplied or straight. I'll show you what the problem is. So here's my FFmpeg conversion script, and this has to do with the alpha bits right here. Now, if you're encoding video formats that have alpha channels, you definitely almost always want 4444. If you turn it into 16, it pretty much is almost the same exact size as the original, unless you increase the queue size. But if I want the queue size to be smaller, which I do, and I want this to be smaller too, it'll result in a smaller file, such as 222 megabytes. But the problem is when you encode with Alphabits 8 in only Adobe programs, you get this issue. I've tried everything to get rid of this and figure out many different ways, even using the unmult. And in some cases, you know, you can sort of get away with the unmult, but you know, at this point, it's just pointless. And so, yeah, I was pretty upset that this was happening, and I thought it was an encoding error, but it's actually an Adobe error. I know that because I can come here into Nuke and view the original file here and check the alpha channel, and it's fine. There's no artifacts there, right? None. And even in the converted, it's identical. It's absolutely identical. The alpha channel is exactly identical. It's identical. It works in Nuke, and it even works in DaVinci Resolve. And so I even went so far as to build this in Nuke. And I took some of the raw footage that I used on a project for a screen protector and case supplier company. We used to make a lot of videos for their products. And so I just took some of the footage there and just tried to create a simple composite just to show that the rocks would composite just fine in Nuke. I tested it like I showed in Resolve. I even tested it in Premiere and it didn't work. So it doesn't work in any of the Adobe applications. For some reason, you'll need to encode AlphaFix 16. But anyway, knowing me, I wanted to solve this problem. I want to show you what I did. I actually built a C++ plugin because I have experience in C++ and building plugins for After Effects, Maya, and Nuke, and Houdini. I also used Claude to get me started on this plugin and look at some of my code that I had and just have me sort of try to address each issue specifically in C++ because creating the plugin in C++ is just a little different. So I came up with this plugin. It's called AlphaFix. I added it up here to effect. I think I put it in channel. Yeah, AlphaFix. It did what I expected. It's basically an unmult, but it's supposed to fix some of the issues. And it did fix all the issues except this banding. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I even did a set channels where I set all the RGB to alpha. And yeah, sadly, it imports the footage with this artifact in it. As far as I know, there's either two solutions. One, I would have to change my plugin to override the MOV importer that After Effects and Premiere have, and that would just be really time consuming and sort of out of the scope for the time that I have. But I know I could probably do it if I did spend the time. Or I just could, I guess, plead with Adobe to fix that because clearly it's not affecting it in any of the other DCC apps. But anyway, now what I wanted to do is I wanted to figure out how can I encode videos so that I can get better encoding. And so I made a couple Python scripts that I wanted to show. This is more like a PyQt app, and I'll show you what it does when I run it. And this is not native in After Effects, this is just a separate Windows app. Let's just say I wanted to test just that specific encoding. I can drop the file on here, gives me source video info, such as the file size, the bitrate, which is huge, pixel format used, the bit depth. If it has an alpha, I can choose different profiles that I want to test it in. And I built 2 profiles so far, just because the one I was mainly having was 4444 alpha, but I also just built a 422 just in case. And then I can select all the tests or smart select, and you see it says 12 selected here, so it shows you the variants and the description of exactly what it is. So you can see some of them are alphabet 8, testing it against different quality values and pixel formats. And the cool part is I can select a testing duration, a start and a duration. I could do start of the clip, I can do middle of the clip, and it shows the start time and the duration, so just 1 second. Click render all, and what that's going to do is it's going to render out the 12 different videos based on these FFmpeg compressions, so I can see which one is better. And I get this little results info at the end, showing me the file names, the variants. It shows me the file size of those variants and the estimated file size of the full clip, along with the megabytes per second. And we can see here, yeah, AlphaFix 16 at quality 0. Well, that file is going to be larger than the original, which was 800 megabytes. So maybe these ones are worth looking at, and it just so happens that they're all AlphaFix 8. The higher estimated sizes, yeah, those are the AlphaFix 16, except for this one because I have quality at 0. But you can see I'm mainly going to be looking at maybe these right here, and they're all AlphaFix 8s. And so I might want to choose one of these. But how do I compare? Well, here I added an open output folder where it'll open the output of all these, as well as a text file that I can see compared the results. But in addition, I also added a separate button can open in After Effects. And watch what this does. If I click open in After Effects, it immediately imports and runs the script. I could easily switch them on and off using the switcher, the CC composite effect, showing that only with alpha bits set at 16, only those work, which is sad because I do get good compression out of these. But anyway, it allows me to see all of the files at once and just comparing the different rates. This is just sort of how I test the encoding. And of course, I could take this, drag it across just to see the original, for quality checking and things like that. And so that's the reason why I made this here, is to just test the rocks. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little explorations. And yeah, that was just an issue I found only in the Adobe programs where we have this weird artifacting here. So I hope they can get rid of that really soon, even for AlphaBits 8. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.